look like if you just come out of the Coover facility, so.
No, Gregory. Oh, you look like you now come off the cruise ship.
Ah!
You're sure you don't have COVID?
No, you have it?
Social distancing.
All right. We'll do it in my way.
All right.
Better fetch.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Soca TV. You can't talk with that on your face, brother.
Sorry. Just practicing social distancing and using your mask.
Anyway, guys, we are so happy to have you here again tonight. We have a wonderful show planned for you. We have some excellent panelists on tonight, and we really hope that you continue to follow us. Please go ahead and share, let everybody know that we are on, and please continue to share and like and follow Soca TV. So, Gregory, what's on for tonight?
Well, Mindy, if being a symbol of human achievement describes a woman's work, then tonight our panelists surely emulate such.
Okay, tonight we have 5 beautiful guests, 5 lovely, lovely ladies who we are going to introduce to you.
Well, you know, to have big stars and so forth, such as Brooke Shields she was from the Blue Lagoon, big star in Blue Lagoon. Well, Brooke Shields went to Princeton University in the USA. And so that's our first guest on our panel. Ladies and gentlemen, the great, the wonderful, the creative, Miss Sonia Dumas.
Woo! We have celebrities in the house.
Hi, Sonia. How you like my introduction?
Actually, I was in class with Brooke Shields. We were in acting class together.
I didn't want to say that. I wanted you to say it. I know.
Sonia, well, I know many of our viewing audiences might know you, but some may not. Could you just give us a little background about yourself, about your career in dance and so?
Sure. I started dancing from a very young age. I moved around a lot. My family moved around a lot, so we didn't always live in Trinidad. In fact, we only came to live in Trinidad when I was about 13. And I would take dance occasionally, you know, wherever we were. But when I came to Trinidad, I started like when I was like 5 or something. And then I got here and I really sort of deepened my love and commitment to dance. So I started to take ballet because it was right up the road from where I was living. And long story short, you know, I'm here several decades later, still in the dance, having done a lot of those sort of ballet exams, yes, but learn folk, learn modern, and certainly deepen my love of choreography. So that's my little dance world in a nutshell.
Lovely, lovely. Well, we are going to move on to our second guest. And this lady is no stranger to Soca TV screen. She has been here before, the lovely, talented 2005 Miss Lauren Rive. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Shirma Burke.
Shirma!
Hi. Forgive me. I tried to fix the screen. I don't know. It's just not fixing.
That's all right. We're seeing you.
We're seeing you. You look fine. You're beautiful. You're back in 2000.
Thanks, Gregor.
Okay, so Shirma, again, we know we may have some new audience members. Could you just give us a little brief synopsis about your involvement in dance?
I started dancing at around age 6 in a little community group by the name of Tots and Teens. Avril Taylor was my first real dance instructor. For who may not know her, she's a southern dancer who no longer practices dance, but she was one really, really strong dancer at that time. On and off during school time, and competed in several dance competitions on my way up. Took part in West Village, March Square competition several times, had toured a bit, you know, in Europe, North and South America, and the Caribbean doing dance. And I fell in love with choreographing, and I'm there for it. I love it. And I'm still there. Have my dance company. We have our struggles, but we're there. We're holding on.
Well, that's what we want to hear, that you're holding on.
Correct.
Well, Shirma, we're taking a little trip a little way across the islands.
Oh, Lord.
When I hear people say, this is our we people.
Cleavers?
No, girl. That's in Tobago twang.
Oh, okay.
For all of we is one.
Okay.
This is our people. He's my brother. She's my sister. Everybody is one. All of we is one family.
Yeah.
None other than the mother and the queen of the Ajana dance, Miss Miriam Scott.
Hi.
Hi, Miriam.
Welcome, Miriam. Welcome to our SoCal TV. Are you hearing us? Miriam, are you hearing us?
Miriam, are you hearing us? All right. She's getting it fixed up. This will be short in the panorama boat when it crossing over the Bocas.
All right. So we're still not hearing you, Miriam. We're still not hearing you.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, Lucette.
So what we're going to do while we work out that technical difficulty with Miss Scott, we are going to go ahead and introduce Miss Miriam. Can you check and see if your mic is muted? Okay. Okay, so what you should do is log out and log back in, and then we will bring you back up on screen. Okay, nice. So guys, we're going to move on one time, and we are going to introduce our next panelist. We have this lady. We know we try to represent all aspects of our multicultural society. So this next lady we have here is representing our East Indian culture, but hear what? She could be sort of controversial at times, and I want you all to hear her stories tonight. I want to introduce to those who don't know her, Miss Rachel Batiste Lee, one of my good friends from a long time.
My dancing partner. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Yeah, so
Hi, guys.
how you going? Long time.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it is a long time.
Tell our viewing audience a little bit about yourself, because I know not everybody would know about Rachel.
Okay. Well, just like Sonia and I started at a very young age. I started at 6, between 5 and 6 years old. Start doing classical East Indian dance, which was Kathak, with the late Pradeep Shankar. And basically, a lot of people don't know. My first love was really ballet.
Okay.
And yeah, so my first love was really ballet, but because my family was, they were mostly introduced in the East Indian dance, the classical East Indian dance in particular. That is how I was able to get into that, So coming on later down in my life, I did other styles of classical Indian dance, which was I did Odissi with Mundira Balkaran Singh. I did Kuchipudi with Rajesh Sinha. So I was able to learn all the basic and the foundation of classical East Indian dance. But as I said, my first love was ballet.
Yeah.
And I was able to learn other styles, which was the ballet with Kara Lashbal.
Okay.
And the African folk, and I work with I lost the name, but I work with different people, and my passion was always fusing all the different styles that I love,
Okay.
So that's why in my choreography in particular, you will see a little bit of everything,
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's see if we get back Miss Miriam Scott on.
Hi, Miriam. We're not hearing you.
So apparently she's hearing us, but we are not hearing her. Okay, so Miss Miriam, if you could lose the headset, and let's see if we can hear you directly from your computer or phone, whichever one you're using. See if you can disconnect it, and let's see if we're hearing you. Check and see if your mic is still muted.
Miriam, you just have me here with a smile on my face as though I'm a Miss Universe contestant until you're up for the final question.
You know, first. So, Miss Miriam, we're seeing you very clearly, but we're still not hearing you.
Switch on, we'll get back to her. Mr. Director, we'll get back to her, right?
All
Okay,
right.
then. Okay, our next guest. I don't think there are words to describe this lady. It's beautiful, the evergreen, the lovely, the intelligent, the talented. My mother, my teacher, my mentor, Miss Dr. Carol LaChapelle. Hey, Caroline, show me. How are you doing?
Hello.
Teacher to all of us.
I'm so happy to be on your show. I'm so happy to be on something new. This is my first, whatever cast you're calling it.
All right, so Miss
Are you
LaChapelle,
hearing me?
yes, we are now hearing you. Miss Doctor, can you give us a little background on yourself with respect to your dance career?
Absolutely. Yeah. The child, I always like to start, the child who knew at a very early age that I wanted to make dance my life and a career. So fortunately, I had some help from a wonderful teacher in those days, Helen Mary Kay, because in those days, you will understand, there were 2 black people in the school. 2. So Helen Mary Kay, my English teacher, taught me really well. And I went on to get a scholarship, and I went to England, and I studied dance at what was then the kind of college that everybody went to. Pat Rowe went to London College. Nancy Herrera went to London College. Oh, Carol LaChapelle, Noble Douglas. Oh, we all went to London College. It was like a Trinidadian link for dance. But lots and lots of experiences followed that. Sonia, you were in one of my first classes that I taught in Trinidad when I returned.
You were? That's right. On Cipriani Boulevard.
Yes, on and on, yeah. So, lots of experiences in my career, as you would know, both in terms of teaching dance in schools, in education, starting dance studios, dance companies, going into academia with UTT and UE. So it just hasn't ended. It's been an amazing ride. I am very thankful.
Well, guys, I'm not sure what is going on with Miss Scott, but we're going to still try and get her on the panel throughout the evening. But my very first question to you ladies, because we know it's female choreographers on the panel tonight, and I would like to know from any one of you, I want you to describe how you have become a choreographer. I know we talk about our love for dance and the dance schools we went to, but how did you become a choreographer? Anybody could take that question. Who's going to go first?
Well,
I always wanted to be one. I wanted to be a choreographer. I did not want to be a dancer, as in go on stage and perform only. I wanted to make up the dances. That always was a dream. There you go. I started.
I was introduced to choreographing through Best Village, and it was the most horrific experience ever because it was a tragedy. My first piece with the group that I was really young, no experience. Just sometimes people see you dancing good and they say, "Don't worry, man, you could teach. If you could dance, you could teach." That's a myth. I decided to assist the group, and when the show ended, I just folded. And then at that time, my dance instructor was Erica Rollins. She was working in the Ministry of Culture, so she was a Best Village officer.
Right.
And I saw her off stage because it was at Naprima Bowl. I had no words. I walked past her, and I just kept going. And then afterthoughts, I was like, you know what? You're not a quitter. You're going to go back and you're going to do it. And I just started to build that confidence. And because I've danced with various amazing choreographers and teachers, I started to dig deeper and get inspired. And I know I'm still growing and learning, but that was the beginning of my choreographic career.
Lovely.
Terrible.
I decided, I guess, a long time ago that choreography was the way that I could make a statement, whatever statement I wanted to make, whatever theme I wanted to explore. And so, although I loved and still love to dance, to be the mover and to be the person on whom choreography is constructed, I think that there was a part of me, and there still is a part of me that uses dance as the statements that I want to make. And so, in order to do that, I have to construct the statements. I have to construct the way the theme is going to be imagined, and the people who perform it are the ones who are my collaborators in that whole process. And I just like the fact that I could use choreography to make my own statements about life, about anything.
All right.
Impressive.
Nice.
Rachel?
Well, I think my first time choreographing, I think, is when I came back from Avanili. Yeah, me, Indian dancer, went to Avanili instead of India.
Take that.
Yeah, I wanted, just like Sonia. Yeah, just like Sonia, I mean, I really wanted to express what was inside of me, being creative, not just be stigmatized as an East Indian dancer. And, at that time, when I came back from Avanili, my sister started her dance group, which was the Soy Village Kathakali dancers. And in that way, I was able to really get down and start creating and fusing and, just basically expressing myself. So I think that was my first time really experiencing doing choreography in that way, Yeah.
And it took off from there. Lovely. So, Miss Scott,
Yeah, it did.
let's see. Nice. So, Miss Scott, let's see if we're hearing you now.
Pleasant good evening to each and every one.
He's on the inside.
Thank you for that.
Open the door, let the day go come in. All of we are one family. Open the door, let the day go come in. All of we are one family. All of we are one family. Miriam, come in, so let we talk. Hey, good evening to everyone.
You make me wait so long. I feel as though the panorama coming to Tobago, so you're very happy with that welcome.
You tell with your Panama hat on.
I'm only doing it. All right, Miriam. Miriam, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in years. Tell us.
Oh, yes, I migrated out to the US for a number of years, 13 years. I left here in 2005 after the passing of my queen mother, and I returned only in December of 2017. Yes, but it's good to be back in Tobago and positive vibration and energy.
So you want to tell our viewing listeners and the other guests on the panel a little about yourself for those who don't know much of you?
Okay, pleasant evening again to the panel and to our viewers and listening audience online. My name is Miriam Scott from Tobago. Grew up all my life in the community village of Patience Hill, Tobago. Dance for me started at a very young age because in Patience Hill and my family, when it comes to dance and drums, what we call the yard or the gully, things was happening because my uncle, the late Henry James, I would have started dancing with him from very young. So dance and drumming and tambourine music and fiddle was always part of the pulse and vibration in the yard. So as a child, I would have seen that. My uncle would have seen my like organic passion for dance. And automatically, since it was happening in the yard, I would have been drafted into that. So my early years of dancing would have started with the Astronauts Dance Company of Patience Hill. My early years of choreography would have also started with my uncle, Henry James, with the Astronauts Dance Company. I would have traveled extensively with him, spending time in Italy, teaching and performing in America, working with Babatunji Olatunji, Michael Babatunji Olatunji. And I formed my own performing company, the Ajoke School of the Performing Arts, in 1989, thereabout to 2005, at the point of time when I migrated. And I came back and I formed another company. At present, I am the artistic director and founder of WAWO Performing Arts Company. And WAWO is Yoruba meaning come see, come see.
Come see. Okay, lovely.
Well, since you came in a little
Part of
after,
my dance life too would have developed a lot. Yeah, would have been developed.
Miss Scott, are you hearing us?
It's static. I am not hearing clearly what you are saying. I don't know why this is happening, but there is a delay in what you are saying.
okay, all we want
I am hearing you now.
we just wanted to know how you became a choreographer. What inspired you?
I always had I was very observant of the very small things around me. Nature sort of brought me into choreography, you know, just looking at trees, how they move in the wind, and, you know, coming up with the concept of colors and trying to create the human body to move accordingly. So choreography, the birth of choreography for me, I would say, came from nature, just being around nature, looking at things move and wanting to apply that imaginary thought to creativity and bring it to choreography. So, you know, it's like drawing movements on a blank canvas using bodies and, you know, energy and space and things like that. But with the pulse that was happening in Patience Hill and the fire through the Prime Minister Best Village Trophy competition, as a young dancer, as I said, with my uncle, Mr. James, automatically, you know, I was always, okay, Miriam, finish that, Miriam, do this, Miriam, train this. So I became the lead principal dancer also of the company from a very young age, a designer and choreographer.
Interesting, quite interesting.
You said something really interesting there, the body as a canvas. And I'm sure that resonates.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Carol, could you hold the speaker part of your earphone closer to your mouth? Yes. Yes.
Better?
Better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just picking up on what Maria said. The using the body as a canvas, which is a lovely bit of imagery. The understanding that as dancers, as choreographers, we paint, we create shapes and pictures and stories on what is otherwise a black canvas, which is a stage, really. But the stage gives us the power to make the representations, as Sonia said, to present issues, to present, give visibility to those aspects of life we want to highlight or through spotlighting things.
Okay, missed the last little piece of what you said.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's okay.
Now, ladies, all of you all on the panel has been distinguished choreographers. If I'll put that next to your names, don't go home and say, "Oh my God, Gregor Brady said this." You all said it yourself through your work. But sometimes, or a lot of times, right? Creative people need a little inspiration. So can you all tell us what inspired you, or what is the process for you when your choreography on this blank canvas? How do you create your work on this blank canvas? Miss Dumas?
Look who we call this. There's a there's no one way to do it. Huh? There's no prescriptive way to do it. And I mean this for any genre, okay? Because if you're trying to create something new, it's not really new because it has elements of what you know already and what the language of that dance is or that movement is. But what is new about it is how you put the pieces together. How you put the pieces together is determined by what you want to say. And the process can take any form. For instance, I could be walking down a street and see a bird, okay, that's for some reason waddling down the street, a dove or a pigeon or something, and I could get inspired, okay? I could look up and I could see a tree and I could see a branch at a particular angle and I could be inspired.
Yes.
I could be experiencing an emotion, and then that brings up imagery for me that I could then invest in a dance. Okay. So I don't think there's one way. And in fact, that's what I want to I want to continue to do dance in that way. I don't want to have a set thing. Now, of course, there are times when if you have to cut, especially in commercial choreography, right? They need 16 bars of music and they needed it with this music and they needed it to show this product. Well, that's a different story because that's an objective that is not even your own. Because not you're the choreographer, but you're just facilitating somebody else's idea, right?
Right.
But the fact is that when it's your choreography, the as the ladies said before, the two lovely ladies down there, because I'm looking at you down at my screen. Canvas is it? You have a blank canvas.
Yep.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
You yeah. So in other words, you just take from the environment, take from your experiences, take from your emotions, and take from your objective in putting the dance there, and you make the work. You could start with music. You could not start with music. Okay. You could start with a beat or a rhythm. The music could be just accompaniment of the sea. You know, it could be just you be sitting on the beach and that's it. You know, the sea tells you or talks to you just with the lapping of the waves or the crashing of the waves. Okay, so your soundtrack is also a sort of blank slate that you can create to accommodate your movement. So I really think it's really open.
Marina, I thought you'd have said that, you know.
How many conversations have we had about that before?
I would love to hear Ms. Burke's response because Ms. Shimmerberg, I've seen your work. A lot of people talk about your different approach to choreography, but I will let you do the talking.
I am, oh Lord, a lot of people. That's pressure, you know. I am moved by emotions. I am connected to people's stories. I love dealing with social issues. I think sometimes it is overlooked. It is quicker heard of by the words of a poet and a calypsonian. But through dance, I feel the need to bring some of these social issues to life. Sometimes there are things that we may miss, and sometimes there are things that people that we have not reached. And for me, like Miss LaChapelle and our Tobago family, for some reason, I get inspirations to by sometimes in a quiet moment, you just outside and you connect with nature. Yeah. I don't always follow the words. I don't always follow music, but I follow energy. And I feel like depending on when I go to my dancers and I feel a certain vibe and connection with them, immediately the ideas start to come and I start to build and develop, and it continues nonstop. And then sometimes, again, depending on who you're working with, like Sonia said, the work is not yours, but you still want it to become yours. You want to make that
Yes.
statement and you want to stand out. So I never try to box myself in and say that I am known for this only, but I am really, really moved by a lot of social stuff. So I connect with that. I'm, as being a secondary school teacher as well, sometimes students come to me with all sorts of stories, some very funny and some, again, really, really upsetting and scary and even saddening. So for me, all of these things play an important part in my creative process.
And I've been privy to view some of your stuff with social work, dealing with pregnancy and teenage pregnancy and all those things there. And yeah.
Excellent work. Excellent work, I must say.
Thank you.
You see them too?
I saw some, yes.
Okay.
So Miss Scott, could you tell us a bit about your choreographic process?
As Miss Burke, loving a little on what she said, that natural environment. I know for sure my first essence of choreography was coming from that type of environment. As just recently, just stepping out of my door, I observed a caterpillar on the ground, as trying to get out of its cocoon. And the movement was just so amazing that I actually started video taping it, looking at how the colors, the black and that bright green color was sort of intermingling and emotion, and it brought me into the essence. Something could be created here. What kind of sound could I put to this movement? How could I create a type of costume to bring birth or creativity to what imagination now that I have in my mind? What is also beautiful about choreography is the bodies that you have to work with. Those vessels that you have to create movements within and around and from. And it's beautiful when you have a group of dancers, male and female, that becomes very teachable and fluid to what you want to offer as a choreographic piece. It makes it easier to to see those paragraph through movements with all the different punctuations, being explored and coming into this beautiful creative light. For me, to be honest, on a spiritual level, a lot of my choreography too came from just being in total silence. In total silence, having my breathing in a choreography pattern, and seeing visions of beautiful work just coming to life on a spiritual aspect for me.
I have a question
Sometimes
for you.
you got to take yourself. Sometimes you got to take yourself out of the busyness and the noise, and sometimes allow creativity to sometimes becomes its own without you even trying to do anything about it.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand the level of where I'm coming from with that.
Yes. I actually was going to ask you a question based on what you said about using the dancers' bodies. Was there ever a time that you had a vision in your head and you had something that you wanted to do, but somehow the bodies that you had to work with was not giving you back what you intended? Did you have ever worked with a situation like that? And what did you do at that point?
Yes, definitely. Because besides being an Afro-Caribbean dancer, performer, and choreographer, I am also a liturgical praise and worship choreographer. And on that aspect, I always have to, most times when I get into a space, dealing on that aspect of creativity and choreography, I sometimes, will experience that block, and I will have to ask my dancers to start examining themselves based on the piece that I want to do for that release and for that block to be removed, because it sometimes can block you as a choreographer for the process of the creativity to continue. And we believe though nothing is perfect, but we believe in excellence. And at the end of it, when you create your piece, it must be pleasing to the audience. I don't like when audience go to different events and show, and they leave and they will not touch or move by what was presented to them.
Right.
They must become part of the creativity. They must become part of the paragraphs that is written in the choreography.
Nice.
Through the movements, they must be able to read your story, experience your story. And that comes from dancers too, on a performing stage, being able to be free to release, because dance is freedom. No matter what genre you want to take it in, it is freedom. It is freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of emotion, freedom of movements.
So it's one thing for the choreographer to have something in mind, but it's also up to the dancers as well to work on themselves and try to bring out what the choreographer wants.
Become that acceptable vessel so that you can work with them.
Well, Miss Rachel, I know that you spoke about doing a collage of genres and always trying to mix up things, and I know that's your style, but tell us about your choreographic process.
I think it's basically the same thing as the other ladies.
A little sweet.
I always believe that dance to me, for me, dance has always been a spiritual connection with God, and it's a way that I'm able to express myself. And most of it usually comes by like a dream. I will see, because I also construct costumes as well. So sometimes I will see the costume before I even see the choreography.
Right.
Or I will hear the music, and then everything will just start to fall into place. So it depends on the whatever may come to me, whether maybe I might be inspired by a piece of music, or I may be inspired by nature. It's just basically the same thing like the other ladies. It's so many different things happen, and come together, and then sometimes I don't even see the choreography until I finish. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just everything everything just flows. So I just basically I like to let my spirit guide me. And just happen to see the end result after. Yeah.
Well, Dr. LaChapelle, I have seen your work. I've worked with you actually, yes, in your dance school.
Cara taught all of us, I think.
No,
Cara, you didn't teach everybody.
No. We're not teaching taught. We're not teaching taught. I'm talking about what with her. I was privileged enough to be on the same, to be choreographing on the same stage with Dr. LaChapelle. I hope you don't mind. Right.
I'm self too, and careful.
Let me nicely say, Carol, and everybody will love you because we know. Right. So I've seen your work. I've seen you take the simplest of all movement and turn it into something grandeur. And I would really like to hear, honestly, I take some of your stuff to her. I'm thief. I didn't plagiarize. But you inspired my work, some of my work. Let's hear a little about how you go about the choreography process.
Many different ways, actually. We've said this, and Rachel is right. We've said similar things in our own way. And it depends, like Sonia said, if it's a job, what you have to produce and how you go about that. For me, that could be waking up in the middle of the night with the idea, straight out of sleep when you go, oh boy, I got to dance it, I've got to write it down, I've got to make a note. There is that aspect. There is the inspiration that comes from spirit, God, life, nature, that aspect. And then there is, for me in particular, a kind of, well, a drive really beyond steps and having good dancers, good in any field, good in any technique, good, strong, committed dancers. Absolutely. If you don't have a good dancer, you don't have a good dance. But, all right, we won't cry about that because sometimes we do have to do a lot of teaching. But for me, it's also about what difference do you want to make in your work?
Yes.
And how do you want to affect people? And starting from 100 years ago, it was that I am not seeing myself. It's something I learned from Beryl. You know, she didn't say it to me, but it was clear. And if you think about Beryl, Vinny, our grandmother, you recognize we as Caribbean people were not seeing ourselves. I wasn't allowed to go to a book class, you know, people never tell me why you didn't. I wasn't allowed. It was not allowed. You're not supposed to put like kind of get away from that kind of word, you know. So you overcome. And so having had the opportunity to train and having been inspired by dance all my life and working, living, earning my living in dance, I wanted to create dance that was reflective of me, reflective of us Caribbean people. How to fuse racial again, how to fuse all of these wonderful techniques that we've studied, learned, almost perfected into something that would be meaningful. You know, the story, the idea, the issue, but how to make it ours. That was my challenge.
All right. So, Mr. Chappelle, well, all of you, I realize that that all of you are inspired by nature, you know, different avenues, and that all of you have several ways of processing or going through or making up your choreography. And what I want to find out, since you have all these resources and avenues, are you all still, each of you, focusing on one style of dance, or you are now just exploring your imagination? Because I know when people call Sonia's name, they might want to identify her with one genre of dance. Would we be correct in doing that? So you tell us, is it that you are now at this point in your career just exploring your imagination, or you're focusing on one genre of dance to express your thoughts and your messages and stuff? Sonia, you want to take that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm focusing on finding the genre of dance that I am comfortable with. Now, what I mean by that is that for many years, I've choreographed in the styles of classical ballet, in modern, and to some extent, a sort of release technique of contemporary, right? But I've also choreographed in, I would call it the Trinidad and Tobago version of African Caribbean folk, because there are many versions of African Caribbean folk.
Yes.
And I think when I formed my company back in 2004, I made a very deliberate decision to try and find a contemporary Caribbean aesthetic that I wanted to develop on my own from all the information that I had. So from about that time and to now, and probably for a long time to come, I am still exploring how I can make a signature kind of set of movement from the influences that I have. But my root is Caribbean. It doesn't have to be African Caribbean, but it has to be Caribbean. Okay? It has to have the pulse and the nature of the Caribbean person in it, and that's what I'm teaching. And it takes a long time to actually figure that out, especially when we're doing it part-time, because we're not full-time choreographers. So that we don't, I would love for one day to really, I call my dance company a laboratory, right? And I would love if that laboratory was like a real laboratory where I could go in at 8 o'clock in the morning, figure out stuff, then throw half of it out, decide what else to do, etc., etc., so I could come into the aesthetic that I know that I want to do in the future. All right. So for me, I'm on a journey now, and I have been for several years, to try to find that hybridized aesthetic that I define as Caribbean, and that when people see it, they say, "Oh yeah, that's Sonia Dumas' style." I mean, I know they always say, "Oh yeah, yeah, Sonia, that she's a weird choreographer." Yes, okay, fine, but that's okay too, right? Because a lot of stuff I do, which is very quirky and kind of offbeat, and I like that too. But inside of the offbeatness, there must be a kind of, somebody must look at that and say it's Caribbean. You know what I mean?
Right.
Look at that and say, well, oh, it could be Russian, it could be contemporary Russian, it could be contemporary Norwegian, it could be contemporary Peruvian. No, what about it makes it Caribbean? And that's my journey now.
Lovely, very interesting. Miss Rachel, a lot of people will see you and they will see an East Indian person and they may automatically assume East Indian dancer. But correct us now. Tell us, what is your style, or is it that you are exploring all styles and just, expressing your imagination? Where can we identify Rachel?
Well, I think I've been doing that for a lot of years now. I have been exploring. I have been creating. I have been always looking outside of the box, and Gregor could testify to that. My choreography is always out of the norm. I never look at myself as, okay, I'm an East Indian dancer or I'm a modern dancer. I look at myself as a dancer. I love dance. I love all genre. Once it's dancing, I'm there, And I love creative work. And for me, a lot of people even put me in a box because they couldn't figure out whether I was an Indian dancer or if I was, they couldn't figure out, due to the choreographies that I used to do, they couldn't understand where I was coming from. So I've been getting that basically my whole entire life, But at this point in my life, I think I'm basically just like Sonia. I look at myself as a Trinidadian, and I want people to see our style. I mean, we have our foundation where, whether it be ballet, whether it be classical Indian dance, we have our foundation. But I really want to see something that we can say, okay, this is our culture, where we fuse the East Indian dance and the folk, the Caribbean folk, and you can say, well, okay, yeah, this is from Trinidad, because you've seen, like the ballet, for instance, you see all these different styles of ballet from the different islands.
Right.
But if we can create something that is from home, from Trinidad, that people could identify and say, yeah, that is a Trinidadian style. I can't say Trinidadian, I say Trinbagonian, because Tobago has such beautiful Caribbean folk and for the ballet and all these stuff, and for me, I've always wanted that. And that's why I guess that I used to try to create that kind of styling where people can look at it and say it's such a beautiful piece. It's just a beautiful dance, rather than saying, okay, she's a classical Indian dancer or she's a modern dancer, So I have been always striving for that. And right now I've been doing a lot of work, not so much with adults or teenagers anymore. I've been doing a lot of work with preschoolers, with children.
Okay.
And you start them off from that young, because for me, I find that you learn so much from these little baby kids,
Of course.
their movements, because they're free and they're free and they're not they're not structured and saying, well, I have to do it this way, and they just like to explore. They just like to do their thing, and enjoy and to me, I'm getting satisfaction working with them.
Nice.
Shuma.
That's Yeah.
So,
Could we put you in a box? Could we put you in
no,
of what genre?
no,
What you say
no,
about?
sorry.
Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say. Are you just imagining? Are you exploring your imagination, or could we put Schumann in a box?
No, I like to just simply say I'm a creative. I don't belong in a box because as a dancer, knowing me, I fit in any form and style. I had basic ballet training with Miss Pat Rowe. I've done a lot of contemporary, and I was grounded with folk. I even delved into hip hop in my primary school and secondary school time. So, as a creative, I am always exploring and trying to learn and look at new things and new ideas. So, to actually say that you're gonna box me in, no, I see myself as someone who is fluid. Reason for that is because if I'm given a challenge, like I want to recall something that happened with Gregor and I, when we were Ibis was setting up a Larry V contestant, that was Nicolette Braffett. Gregor used to work a lot with Ibis T&T performers, and he came to me and he said, let's give her something different. I was like, what are you talking about, Gregor? He said, let's do a kobo. No, guys, listen, I laughed at that because I was like, a kobo? Gregor,
That's good for you.
no,
Yes, yep, that's
yeah,
Gregor.
but it's Gregor, and that's what I love about
Animal in
Gregor.
Trinidad. I think Gregor explored every animal in Trinidad.
I'm telling
But
you.
in a good way. In a
And
good
I
way.
love truth. It's the truth. And I always love that about his work. So when he said that, you know what? I sat in my chair and we started building the piece together. Something happened, I think, and we couldn't continue together. And I continued, but I always credit Trevor for that. In the end, when I saw the piece at the end, I was like, it's such a folk piece, yet still it's very contemporary. So I like to merge stuff in. I like to play on our culture. Now, I would never tell anybody that I'm a folk choreographer, like an established folk choreographer, if I may say that, because I think everyone has a particular space to some extent where you're at your best. Now, I'm
Right.
not saying that to discredit anyone, but I'm just saying for me, if I were to say that I am a strictly strong, very strong folk choreographer, because I know a lot of these topics are always and issues are always about, the folk and keeping it alive. But I know Trinidad is so diverse, and sometimes we tend to not see other choreographers and dancers' potential in other areas, and we try to box them in, for want of a better term. But I like to just be a part of things and be a part of the different genres and styles, and also explore them and let my dancers experience that as well. So I would not say that I'm strongest in folk or other areas, but I know I love contemporary. I try to even include folk concepts, folk movements within the contemporary style.
Mhm.
Similar to what Sonia is saying, like you want to just find this Caribbean, African, but yet still you use what technique you have and you just marry it all in there. That's me. I never try to limit myself and say, oh my God, yes, no, I'm strictly this. No, I won't say that because
Okay.
that's not who I am.
All right.
It's strange that you said that, Shima, about the marrying of the various styles, because I will talk on behalf of the folk choreographers. When you look at folk, I think I remember our choreographer before he went to Caribbean school, an old choreographer that was Mr. Felix Harrington.
Mhm.
Felix never did any formal training in ballet. He did a lot of folk. And when you look at Felix back then, after he went and take ballet, I didn't see the difference. His body was looking the same way.
Yeah.
Because folk gives you that sense of
Yeah.
those same elements that you use from the ballet and the modern. I saw him before he took ballet with Caribbean school. So it is interesting that you did say the marrying of all those styles, because
I feel. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, because I was just going to say, because I think of all the dance styles, sorry ladies of the other dance styles, I think the African folks so difficult, very difficult. It is one of the only dance styles that's not codified and is very polyrhythmic. And you have nothing to work on, so the dancer, before choreographer, have to teach till 100 years old. Whereas the ballet teacher could just sit on a chair with a stick and say, no, and you know, they have codified things to that. But the folk teacher have to show. And that's all I need to say.
Yeah, it's kind of reminded me of my experiences with the Astor Johnson Repertory Dance Company. Their work while Astor, you know, you heard that he studied here and he did this and he had all of these different type of training. You still saw a marriage in his work, and I felt it just so breathtaking, and it's still today so relevant and so beautiful to sit down and look at. So for me, that's kind of the feel that you want to get. Well, again, for moi, I'm not trying to downplay any other style.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're here for that. There's a guy, you know. There's a guy. They want to fight, and I find you women so nice. You're nicer. I like you.
The men the other night.
Women take this kind of lovely side of life. All of you want to make me feel too belly. You leave and we're so strong. The woman so passionate. I want to hear a woman jump out of the skin tonight in this guy.
No, but Gregor, I like what you said there, and I argue that a lot. But the little knowledge that I would have of it, that the African folk in Trinidad, I don't ever say Tobago. Somewhere find Tobago just have that unlock. In Trinidad, it's not codified, and you get an argument all the time about it, and people get angry. But I always try to say you can't get angry for something that we're all still learning about, and we're all still feeling through and getting information orally. You really can't get angry at anyone if you see that they do something that you may not know of or you may not like. While you would have to do your research, of course, but the fact that it's not codified, it's hard to follow.
Yes,
it's hard to get it right.
On one level, it's not. I used to think that was a problem too. That it's not codified, and how are we going to pass it down and that kind of thing. But I know how we're going to pass it down. We're going to pass it down through our bodies and through our engagement with space and everything.
I'm glad you said that, Ms. Dumas, because some of the young folks not interested.
Okay, but the fact is, it's interesting. I'll give you a little anecdote. It's Juve morning. I was down, not Juve, sorry. This was the Carnival Friday when they have the Camboulet reenactment down on Piccadilly Street. And I was there with a friend, and I'm looking at these young men come up the road. Now, I know they don't care anything about the history, the nothing. They come in, they lime in, right? But if you look at their body, if you understand how they were beating the iron, I know that on Piccadilly, 100 years before I was standing there, they were doing the same thing. Okay? It's in your DNA. Now, it's for us, the choreographers, to understand that. There have to be, I agree with you, Gregor, there have to be some people who are the keepers of the work and the keepers of the knowledge, and I see them emerging with every generation. They may not be the people you expect, but they are there.
So the generation DNA, you would say the generational DNA.
I would say it's a generational DNA, but then you have to then make sure that they know what's going on in their own bodies, in a sense. That's the dance leader has to do that. Okay, the dancer or the person who is not actually dancing but is dancing. Okay, on Piccadilly Street, I saw a rhythm of young men going up the road that they had no clue about in terms of their history. I know they had no clue. They were just doing what came naturally. Okay.
But that natural aesthetic and that natural nuance of folk dance is very difficult to teach, because as we say, using the word natural, which means you almost have to have it in you.
Why we can't codify it. Teach. That's why it hasn't been codified. How are you going to codify that? They have
to. Very difficult. Yeah.
Okay. But and a lot of folk dance all over the world, the same thing. Okay. The nuances of that particular folk dance,
but I'm not
have to be felt. You know, and that is why we have to be sensitive to that. We, the dance leaders, the choreographers, the people who lead the
I
construction.
want to listen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm hearing Carol
Carol,
saying
trying to say
something. Carol, put the speaker closer to your mouth so we can hear
Yes,
you. Not the phone, but the
static.
speaker.
Yes, we're getting some static, not hearing clearly.
Yeah, we're not hearing you clearly. Don't put the phone. Don't put the phone closer to you. Put the speaker from the earphones. The earphones. Put the microphone from on the earphones. Put it closer to just the microphone to your mouth. From on the earphones.
I'm right up to my mouth.
Perfect.
We're hearing you now.
That was better.
And I'm hearing you.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Must be the earphone. Yeah. So I just want to stick a pin and maybe play devil's advocate, because everybody's entitled to thinking, feeling. But I really, after a whole lifetime, I think we've done what we built up and down and all the paths. And we've done all kinds of things and won Miss Universe and Brian Lara is still, where have we codified, documented our culture? Where? I need that. I don't want that when I die, we're still going like Africa and saying Africa has no history because it's not documented. Trinidad has no history of dance and these dances because it's not documented. Ballet and all these things have lasted for centuries because they are codified, because they're documented, and because all of these huge institutions that are controlling the world in terms of teaching our children are saying, do it like this. So understanding that it is not a simple style is fine, but let's get a style and let's hold on to it and let's share it and let's teach each other and teach the children. We must have our dance clear and shared with generations to come. No, if another virus pandemic comes and why all those boys that were coming down the road, Sonia, get gone. I don't want to push anybody.
Well,
who's going to know it?
If we look at the case of Cuba, we might. I don't even think Cuba codifies its folk. I mean, I've taught in Cuba, and I'm not clear that it has codified its folk.
Cuba 5 times.
Hold on.
I watched the trust and I to people talk about how they teach and transfer it. That's not correct.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is that even though we can teach a certain extent of it, and in terms of documenting and codifying are two separate functions.
Correct.
Okay. So that we need more documentation of our work for sure. Okay. Because there's little things here and there, but we need a bigger body of work for sure. I agree with Carol on that one. In terms of codifying, that is also, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's near impossible because there are the nuances that I think any folk dance, you can try and codify a Chinese folk dance, and you still won't get the nuances that particular part of China will execute. Okay? Right. There's a kind of
Sonia, codification as well for futuristic. Codification as well for futuristic purposes, though. And because if I am codifying, like the ballet was codified for future, so you will keep in that vein, but they also have different styles of ballet. They have Chiquetti, they have all different types. Thank you, Dr. LaChapelle. Oh my God, every time you say new things, I feel so proud. I respect Dr. LaChapelle when she talks dancing. I don't know.
You need to hold the microphone. Okay, we're losing a little bit of what she's saying.
Whereas you spoke about Cuba also, Sonia, but Cuba isn't infiltrated by a lot of outside influences. So Cuba will still have that hold and grip on their own thing. Whereas Trinidad and Tobago is so...
But it's not only that, Gregor, it's because Cuba has a systematized way of approaching the arts. Okay.
That's true.
So that what I'm telling you, you can go into, they have a company, a national company, official national company of folk. They have a national company of ballet, contemporary, and folk. That means, and then you would also have it in schools and so forth, right? So that means that it is ingrained all the time. It's feeding, the system is feeding itself. And so even if it's not codified, you have enough teachers to teach enough students that it will live. Yeah. So that's a very special case in the Caribbean. Cuba is a special case.
And the next thing, and it jumps down. It's a smooth transition. Whereas in Trinidad, we miss some of the generations.
Yeah.
There's a whole hip hop generation.
Oh, yes.
That if we had them in the 80s, we'd have some strong folk companies right now in Trinidad and Tobago. But right now, as we see, and then there is a new culture, the Passa Passa culture, the Jamaican culture, and the Afrobeat. So our folk and codified work has been stalled a little.
Miss Miriam, I wanted to ask you from a Tobago perspective. I know that we are saying, we're talking a bit about codification, and we're talking about handing down of cultures, of the folk dances, and the information. What is your experience in Tobago? Are you hearing me?
Repeat again. I'm losing some of the audio in between. Please repeat.
Okay. Basically, what I'm asking is that I'm asking you if in Tobago there is the ease of transition, because we know our folk is not codified, but is it easier for you all to transfer the information because the young ones are interested, or the older ones who are actually still dancing have good knowledge of the work? What is your experience in Tobago?
Yes, the 4K is very much still very strong in Tobago. We still have a lot of the mature teachers like myself, Karen Berkeley Allen, Erlene Crooks Ned, a couple of them that we still teach the folk as it was handed down to us, and trying to preserve it and keep it organic. Now we have a lot of young dancers now coming to the forefront with new styles and new ways of teaching, and you don't at the same time to want to deprive them, because as an educator, I always say, there is room for improvement, there is room for merging. But in order to preserve what we will say our folk, Afro folk, traditional art form, there are those of us, because I can be, I don't want to say put in a box, but my work is Afro-Caribbean folk. That's the type of choreography and work I would do. But because I have a number of young people that is under my care of tutoring, I would not box that in as to say, well, that's the only thing that you are taught. And even though my experience was not in ballet, but I had a little contemporary training. There are other instructors,
right?
They are bringing to my company to teach her, because I think was one of the things for me personally as a folk dancer, embedded in folk from
young.
Trinidad. It was a struggle for me to fall into that contemporary posture, for the body, which is a beautiful layer overall for a dancer. Admiration right now for the young Shaquille Jones, Zari Kerr, my niece Lisa Maxwell, who now, besides learning the folk, they are also developing in other genre. And it is nice because it's brought back to the communities, it's brought back into the schools, and it's a nice thing. It's a nice merge. But when we say folk, those traditional things that were handed down, and we try to keep them preserved to in the Tobago Heritage Festival. I would have been away for a number of years, and to be honest, in returning to soil Trinidad and Tobago, I am sort of disappointed of the work that I am seeing. I don't know what happened, even with the folk now. It's not as rooted as it used to be before. I don't know. So even with my Wabo Performing Arts Company, I have a program that I do, Come See, Community Come Alive, where it gives dancers, folk dancers and drummers. When I say drummers, you're talking about 15, 20 drummers in the community-centered patients, dancers all over Tobago coming in. And, you know, we just share in the space. We just release and share in the space. And I think that helps us to grow, because I mean, I am getting down in age as well, so my body cannot stretch out as before and do all those, but I'm not going to deprive my young dancers from getting that type of training. So I'm going to bring in persons that are expert in that field to work with them.
Lovely. Lovely. I have one quick question for Carol, a very brief question. Carol, Dr. LaChapelle, well, I know I call you all sorts of titles. A few people I have asked identify you as a ballerina, ballet dancer, but I remember you teaching me a ballet at one point. So just give us a brief idea of what could you be identified with, what type of genre could we identify you with, if any?
How to say that one has created a signature style? I think we're all working towards that. I should speak for myself. I see myself as continuing to evolve. What I'm very clear on, I've shared before, in terms of trying to develop an aesthetic that reflects the Caribbean. I say Caribbean rather than Trinidad and Tobago, because that to me is gives my work purpose, gives my life purpose. So it's more about contemporary, but yes, I enjoyed being Trinidad's baby ballerina, or whatever I was called in those days. I was really chuffed that I could teach ballet right up to advance and whatever else. You know, it's like Black Lives, we can do this, we can do everything, we can do it all. Now let me tell you what I want to do. And what I want to do is to have a style evolve that is, yes, fusion, that is, yes, a hybrid, that has many influences, but a style that has ineffable power, a real power to identify us as Caribbean people. Don't know exactly what that is, but that's my life's work.
Okay, ladies, I know you're all very dainty today. I don't know why. Probably you heard Gregor Billy was on the roast. I mean, I find you all dainty. I have seen Sonia scream, no! I have heard Rachel scream, no! I have heard Shema scream. I've heard Miriam scream and Carol scream. The guys were here the other night and they were passionate.
I thought I was screaming about.
Now you are here tonight, ladies. I would like you all to tell me, how do you all approach teaching male dancers?
If there's any difference.
Well,
Shema,
well, I could say for me, in my dance company, my male dancers, if not all, most of them have the hip hop background, solid training, which is difficult for them to transition into the style of dance that or the choreography that you're teaching, simply because hip hop have a particular style, and like folk or ballet, once you're doing that style long enough, it remains in you. So some of the movements that you would want, they tend to put a bit of hip hop in it, and it's been happening all the time. But I try to expose them to other dance techniques and other dance styles. Even as Miss Miriam said, you bring in someone, it's like you're breaking them out. You're taking them away from their safe and comfort zone, and you're putting them in a spot where they're easy to grasp for different styles. So now my male dancers, they are able to do different genres, they have different techniques. They know when to use particular type. They are never shy to try anything, to be quite honest with you. I don't have that problem with them. Even, well, aside from that, as a dance education teacher in school, this is where the problem lies. Because the mindset of the boys are that dancing it's very feminine, it's only a female thing. If it's nothing to do with whining, or as you all mentioned, Afrobeats or hip hop, they don't want no part of it. So what I tend to do is break it down for them, and I ask them who are their favorite dancers. And now I turn as the teacher have to go and do research and let them know that your favorite dancer did this style. Do you believe that before they
Right.
ended up in this? So I kind
Yeah.
of make them see that the person wasn't just doing hip hop or dance all alone. They were
Right.
trained like this. So that kind of change their mind and make them become a little more open and say, okay, miss, yeah. And they become more giving. You know, I never try to embarrass them at all. I really don't try to embarrass my dancers. As Gregor say, yeah, you're going to shout, but to embarrass them for them to feel less than. Now, if they come to me and they say, Chums, I ain't feeling that step, you know. I'll say, what it feel like to you? Because you're doing it wrong. Do it till you feel like I know you're feeling uncomfortable, but do it till you put your own self into it. And eventually they get it.
Yeah.
But no, they come straight and they tell you, I don't like that step. I find I looking like a girl. And you know, you're trying to get them away from that closed-mindedness.
Yes.
You really try. So that's what I do. I always look at someone who, in my students, who they see as a dance icon, a dance idol, and I let them know this person had done this dance style before they settle with what you see them doing. And that kind of sweets them and changes their mind. It's difficult something, but it works.
Yes. I love your tactics. I love it.
I know Tobago very. I've had a lot of male dancers before. I remember all the male dancers from Peru and all these places. Let me hear a little of how you approach the style of teaching males in Tobago, or the little that's left of them.
I have danced personally through Mr. James as one of Tobago's strong, Trinidad and Tobago's strong male choreographer, male dancer, and growing up under him. I've never really had the opportunity much to have a lot of male dancers to choreograph for or to teach. But basically, you know, as Mr. James would always apply to them, you know, the man has to be strong in the dance, I know, and grounded, you know, so those were some of the basic tones for shaping the male dancer. I know now, even being back and going into the schools and teaching, it's a problem to have the young boys to participate in dance, and some of the principal will tell you that no, they're not sending the boys to the dance class. And you know, their parents will tell you when you try in the community, try to get them involved, they would say no, they don't want their boy child to dance
People still
because
say
of
that on the
certain
stage?
stigma attached to it. But
Wow.
pardon me?
And
Oh
then
yes, presently, well, it's only since with COVID, the program that I am working under, some of the principals will tell you, no, they are not sending the boys to the dance class. In one of
Wow.
my schools, one of the schools I go to, I have 3 schools I teach, only one male dancer in that school among maybe 15, 16 girls. Another school, they had a lot of young boys, male dancers. And of course, I will differentiate with how a female will move, and I will apply that strength of how a man is supposed to position and structure himself, you know, as a dancer. I can apply myself that way. But we are losing a lot of our male dancers, young ones, because they don't want to associate with dance anymore. Most of them. even my son, I can say that my son, he's 26 years old now, and I remember him, of course, he came from a dance family, and I would have sent him to dance workshops as a young boy. And I remember him coming and saying to me one time, Mom, if I continue dancing, I start to behave like a girl? And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, I find the guys, when they're dancing, they throw their hands a certain way and all of that. I said, well, what he want to do? He wants to play drum, and he's a drummer. He's a musician. I never really forced him. I would have cultured him a certain way. I mean, there are different styles of dance that you will take on a different form for expression or what the case is. But yeah, it's happening a lot in the schools here. Some of the younger boys, they don't want to dance. Even when I started my company back here at Patient Sale, I had young men coming in to dance, and their friends would say to them, man, you going and dance that? You going and dance that? You're a sissy? Yeah, are you a sissy? So why is that associated to the male dancer with the male dancers now? Why is that term associated?
That's the next whole that script. Because I taught at Charlottesville, and here in Charlottesville, and the whole football team was my dancers. You know how I got them? 3 came in, 3 of these strong boys because they wanted to be around the girls. 3 came in, I taught them, and next 5 came in, and then Charlottesville had 20 boys till Miss Alfred had to say, oh God, Gregor, too much boys, and they're not moving as I want them to move. So we had like 20 boys, and I find that the boys in Tobago, the males in Tobago, want to dance, but they don't have that male figure that's pushing them. And I feel being a female teaching male to dance, they feel funny, and I don't know why. My teachers have always been, well, male and female. With the male teachers, I was always passionate and hard and strong. And the female teachers, I was the same, because Miss LaChapelle taught me, Sonia taught me, Rachel taught me. So I still have to be strong. So I don't understand why we don't find a way to bring the boys into dance, even if they say these things about the stigma attached to it, because stigma attached right now to everything.
But let me ask you this, Gregor.
Stigma is attached to everything. Basketball, football, whatever you call it, stigma.
My very simple experience. Well, I teach in a secondary school, and I found that within the last few years, this might come as a shock to some of you, the boys that are coming into school, Mova Lab until secondary where I teach, they are more inclined to learn to dance more than the girls. And I found that very interesting. So therefore it made me have to be careful at how I am teaching them. Yeah, the words that I use, talk about strong, talk about showing them different, fixing my body to make sure that they portray the movement in a more manly fashion. So it made me to have to myself on how I teach. But I was very surprised. Very surprised.
And I don't let them get to it murder, because as Shoma said earlier on, her boys are hip hop. If you come into my class to look like Papa and you have to do Papa Rabbit, you better look like Papa Rabbit. I will do hip hop style Papa Rabbit, because that will send me crazy. So I will ball and scream and get what I have to do. Don't mind, they might hate me, but that's okay. You can't be loved by everybody, because I'm the most hateable, lovable choreographer, as you may know. So, you know what I mean? I go for it. I want to see what I want to see.
Okay, Gregor, let me ask you this. I mean, well, anybody could answer. Thing is, a lot of the boys who are attracted to dance now, they like to do they're going to the hip hop side, I find. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's interesting. Remember, folk dance is of the people. So essentially, in their mind, that's probably their folk dancer, because it's of them. That's what they're attracted to. I'm not saying that it's what we would like for that to happen, but I'm just saying, if it is for the people and the people are going there, then how do we bridge that gap? Like Mindy with the boys who come to you to come and dance. Maybe they come from a hip hop background as well, and they want to learn a different style, or they want to be able to impose some of the African Caribbean aesthetic onto their hip hop. I don't know, but Is it
Very
possible
young.
for them have a kind of to have them segue from the hip hop into the folk by using
Yes,
their
yes.
language of the hip hop? Okay, because hip hop is a lot, in a lot of instances, hip hop does denote strength. It does denote the
Right.
fighting character. It does denote that kind of stuff. Okay,
You know
so
the
how do
usual,
you
the
get
usual,
them to Papa
the usual
Rabbi,
tactic. I know
etc.?
many people said it before, but the usual tactic is to, well, at least for me, I try to show them where the movements that they so love in these other art forms, how they
Exactly.
came from the folk. So I show
Exactly.
them the folk version, and then they do their version. I said, look, so you see, this is ours. This is where it came from. So I try to use that tactic as much as possible.
I still feel because of the documentation that you're talking about earlier on, Sonia. This is where the panel will get to understand the difference between documentation and codification. Documentation, I can do it on YouTube. You can document a whole dance. This would look like film, whatever. For me,
Yes.
I think laziness. And because to learn folk, you have to come to a class, you have to learn the technique and so forth. Hip hop, it's like they go, they do two-step. If they feel to sit down in a corner, they sit down in a corner. If they feel to get up, they get up. If it don't have no practice until you are really good and you can always follow each other. But I have been to hip hop classes, and if they want to learn a step, they look on the YouTube, and they come in with the step, and the guy will just say, do the willy bounce. And all of them will do it. And he will do it their way. So in folk, you have to teach it. And I have known that while teaching Charlottesville, I could talk about the young boys today. While teaching Charlottesville, the boys never used to come for it. The boys used to run away from the exercise, If I start class at 7, bet your bottom dollar every boy will be there by 7:45. So what I used to do is say class starting at 7 and start 7:45. And that's how I got there into the classes to do the exercises. So you have to find a way because we cannot, dance is very hard. Dance is very tough. I have worked, you have worked with, all of you all have worked with guys and young boys, and as soon as they do one stretch, they're all gone. And I used to tell them, this is not harder than football.
Yes, it's true.
Exactly. That's
It's not
the
harder than football. So the ball is screen. So
let them understand the connection between whatever they've done before, be it football, be it hip hop, whatever, and the athleticism and
Yes.
the things that they have to do in the folk dance. You see?
well, I know Miss LaChapelle and Rachel would. Miss LaChapelle
Yes,
and
and a
Rachel.
lot of the folk dances.
And in my case, I remember for when we were doing Be Mobile Dance Off, I'm sure Gregor will remember when I worked with young gentlemen, and they were a hip hop group, and they pulled the first genre that they had to do was an Indian piece. And they all were scared. They were like, no, I never did an Indian piece. I'm not going to do that. That is so out of my league. And I had to work with them for just 2 sessions. And you're right, Sonia, you have to find creative ways of connecting them, what they are accustomed to something different. And when I was finished with them, they weren't looking anyway feminine or anything. They were looking really good, and people were amazed to see that they were actually doing an Indian piece in a short space of time.
Well,
And
great
so
choreographer
I
and
think
great-
you really. Pardon?
I said, well, you are a great choreographer and a great teacher.
Cheers. All of these ladies are.
Yeah,
All of these ladies
I
are
think
doing
I think you have to find creative ways to do it. And I love working with guys, because I like the challenge. I like to challenge them to see, well, okay, let me see if you can try this move. Let me see if you can do this, And, as just like you, Mindy, I would put myself in a position where I can actually show them how they will look masculine in a masculine way rather than looking in a feminine way. And in that way, they will be like, oh my God, yeah, I can do that. I can try that. So it's really to find some creative ways and means of connecting them with movements and also with folk, because to me, I find with folk dance have a certain kind of spirit behind it. that is something that, you're right, Gregor, you have to teach it on the spot. You have to let them see it on the spot. It's not something that you could just film and say, well, okay, you could learn this move. It's easy to do that, but to actually get that spirit, and for me, I find folk dance have that. All the folk dance, whether it's East Indian folk dance or Caribbean folk dance, there's a certain kind of spirit behind it, and a certain, energy that comes with it, that you have to do it there. You have to do it live. You have to do it with the live music, the live drumming, because that gives you a different type of energy. And I think that once you get young people to experience it, I think that it will encourage them to come and learn more about the actual style or the genre.
But can I add something?
Sure,
Can I add something? But that's what one of the major issue is especially with the guys, getting them to come and experience it. Because like some of us teach, the parents have most of the say, and a lot of times this is where we get our dancers from the educational system.
Right.
And when parents put their foot down and they say, no, 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 I have parents who say my son is dancing in church, he ain't dancing nowhere else. I have parents who have problems with even the thought of a folk dance being, for them, they see it as a parent broke down culture for me. She said one day her daughter was doing dance in for CPEC, and she said, is it culture stuff you're doing? I said, yes. She has to. That's one of the areas that she's going to be marked on.
Right.
The parents said, you know what the meaning of culture is? No, I know the meaning. I know we all here know the meaning. So she said, it's a cult. And you put him a child in you make a child in a cult when coming to dance. Now, sometimes I refuse to argue.
I never heard that one before.
Listen, it's true, guys. I refuse to argue this because, it means you're going to have to go all the way back to the moment they got their information and where they got it from, and that's a whole other story. So I know the importance of the exam and so on and so forth. But for the guys, it's one thing to want to have guys, but it's another thing to get the guys. And I've noticed even for my dancers as well, in Trinidad and Tobago, you see the same guys dancing in the same circles with sometimes the same different tutors, but they belong to the same group. So we actually share guys in Trinidad and Tobago.
You see, the next point about this is that I believe that in a folk, I could talk for folk, in a folk group, most of the guys in most of the companies in Trinidad and Tobago came out of folk groups. I must say. Right?
Yeah.
Right? And we understand this. A lot of them. Peter London, Jeffrey Carter, all these fellas came out of Irving, Francis, all these fellas came out of folk groups. And my thing about the guys in the folk group is that when you are training a folk dancer, you train the male to do the male part. They look very masculine, they have to hold themselves like kings, they have to do this. But most of the times, I don't practice it. You're teaching the female in the step and the male in the back practicing it. I mean, I used to do it all the time, but that's why I became a choreographer, because I knew the woman and the men's steps. I knew I wanted to go towards choreography. So I would learn what Peter London teaching the girls and the boys, so that when he don't come, I would take over as the rehearsal director. But I never used to practice the girl steps, because I found the girl steps are very dainty and very boring. I find the men had more, this kind of thing.
Grounded.
Well, it was more of soft. It was more of a pulse. You had a pulse. Like if you watch Astor Johnson's, let me go to Astor Johnson's Africa. The men do 1,001 jumps in Africa. I did that dance once. Every time that dance was ever to perform again, I used to run. I used to leave. That dance of 1,001 of these cuttings in the air where you have to find your kick behind. And when you finish that, the men has come on stage and everybody who do Africa could not be placed in the follow-up dance. Two follow-up dances. because it's very, very hard. When the men hear Africa, we would know who would be men. Because all the men will be there. Not to say I didn't know I was a man. It's that I find it was when he had his dances ever for men. It was the dance of hell. So, and then I have to do the other dances too. So, but all the men want to get into Africa ceremony of the drum, same thing. They want to get in that, and the women in ceremony of the drum, although they're doing the same thing as the men, you have the female sex part, the softness of it, and then you have the masculine part of it, and they all come together in the final. So, all I'm going to say is thanks for taking raw men and putting them on the stage. And do the same. Some of the men who came from Raw, it's like Wayne Babas. He turned out to be one of the top ballet dancers in the world. Peter London was a what? Peter London was like nothing but dancing, a drummer. I feel he used to drum because his uncle was a big time drummer. So Peter London learned to dance, and when Peter London came to Barata, I heard stories. They used to laugh at him because his limbs were so long compared to the other guys. And then Peter London went on to be one of the top dancers in the world. So I believe that the boys, your approach to teaching males have to have either two things. One, being creative, a creative approach. Like here, what boys? We're going to teach you the sailor dance today with bats. You're already doing a cricket dance. You teach them the sailor dance and bats in their hand. Or you call them and say, we're doing a football game, and you teach them ballet moves, how to kick the ball from there to the basketball, all them things. You use their sport, and you bring them into the thing, and that's a good way of
improvisation.
Improvisation with the male body. That's a next class.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, clearly, male energy and female energy are very different, and it's how to communicate to the two different groups. How do you show your energy, bring out what is your natural energy on stage? But there's one other thing I wanted to suggest, and that, as I'm hearing people talking about, and I'm seeing a lot of comments about codification, both pro and con in the chat. And I'm thinking there's one thing that I think we've all kind of forgotten, and that is the history behind the movement. So that I think it's as important not only to teach the movement, which is, of course, it's dance, so you have to teach the movement, but the history behind it. Okay? Yeah. Where did that movement come from? And then that can help to infuse those nuances a whole lot better, both for male and for female. Why are you doing this? Why are we handing this down to you? Because your great-great-great-grandmother did it because so and so. I remember having a very lovely conversation with Henry James many years ago, your uncle, and he was telling, his eyes lit up when he said that his mother and his grandmother used to dance the Congo inside, they used to do certain things in their yard, okay, as a natural, right? And
environment.
Yes, exactly. So, and that's what he took, all right? He absorbed that and understood why they were doing it, the why, not just because you're doing it. Why are you doing it? What is the history behind it? So I think that
and your role as a male dancer too.
Right.
The role
that didn't start today. It didn't start in 2020. It didn't start in 2000. Okay. It started several generations before you. Okay. And if you can maybe give that to them as well, that gift of the history of it, then it might be a little more, they give the context, and then that can be something that we can work with. And two very short points I wanted to make. As you were talking, I was also thinking about who has codified what in the Caribbean. And I remembered two instances. One is not in the Caribbean. She's a woman who came to the Caribbean. That's Catherine Dunham. And she has a Dunham technique, which I've studied under Catherine Dunham. All right. I went to her place in East St. Louis, Illinois, studied under her and the people who came in her after her generation, right? Because at the time that I studied under her, she was very she was advanced in age. She was like 87. She was wheelchair bound, and she would not be able to actually demonstrate. So the people who were in her company, who were 10 years younger than she, they are the ones who taught us, right? But I remember that it was a technique. Now, I am from the Caribbean. I have performed African Caribbean dance, and I still found it alien to me, okay? It's not that it was 100% alien, but it was a different technique. It was not the way I would actually codify and teach something from being from the Caribbean. So that was an interesting experience for me. While it was fantastic and we learned a whole lot, the fact is that it was different from how I, as a Caribbean person living, coming, breathing from the Caribbean, would have constructed the movement to teach people. Okay, but that's what I'm saying, that is one way of doing it. That was her way. She, as an American coming down here, getting the information and taking it back. The one who is in the Caribbean that I could remember is a woman whose technique, again, I've learned a bit from her, but not her full technique. And that is a woman from Guadeloupe called Lena Blue. And she took what is the traditional African Caribbean concept of woka, which means big drum in Creole, right? The woka, she took it and she codified something called the technica. Okay. So she literally has codified one aspect of her culture in Guadeloupe. But again, if you look at the Gwoka in the circle of Gwoka, if you go to like an actual soiree for Gwoka, it's different from the technique that she has codified. There are elements of the Gwoka, but it's not the Gwoka exactly. Okay.
The Gwoka looks a lot like the PK though.
Well, the aspects that I see of the Gwoka, maybe not, because the distribution of weight is different, but the fact
is... talk about the aesthetics, not really the technique. Because I danced the Gwoka dance, I do the PK and she did the Gwoka, and we were almost on par.
Right. But the Gwokas, the balance of the Gwoka on the outside of the foot is very different from the PK. Very different. But I find that those are the only two that I can think of in the Caribbean. And it sort of begs the question, if codification is so needed, what has stopped us from doing it? And I think it's that whole issue of needing to understand the history also of the movement. I mean, some of us do understand it. I am still learning. I learn a lot from a whole set of people still now. But I think there are too few of us who understand the history, and there needs to be more. There need to be more of us.
Sonia, I heard you before mention the fact that I think you were talking about teaching male dancers and the fact that they need to know where the movement comes from, the why of the movement. And it got me to thinking about the platforms in which we are allowed to teach these dances or these movements and the why of the movements. And I find more and more that we are exposing our children to dance in schools. Now, I know we have the little dance groups and all of these things, but I'm also seeing school as a platform to expose them, to teach. That's where we actually get to teach the information, right? And it brought me to the point or the question of asking you all about the importance of academics where dance is concerned. Now, when I started to teach dance, I was very young. I was probably like about 13, 14, 15, my teenage years. You know, you started to make up your little dance and thing, and so you feel as a big choreographer because you're teaching people and you're making up your own dance from your head and all of that. Don't mind these movements, little movements that you know already. You're just shifting around the sequence, you know. But as time went by and I started to actually study dance, I learned that there are a lot of devices that you could use in the dance. And dance must have a structure. And so that when academics started to infiltrate my natural style, I realized that my outlook or my outcome, the dance itself, was started to change a little bit. So I wanted to ask you all how important it is in terms of your choreography. If academics has influenced, well, first of all, if you had studied dance on that level, academic level, but has it influenced your choreography? Or is it that you still go on your own feeling, or you try to do what the academics say, have a beginning, middle, and an end, use your choreographic forms and your choreographic devices? Did it influence your choreography at all? Anybody could take this one.
Let's go to Rachel.
Why? Because you find I'm not talking enough.
Not only that, it's because your dance, your choreographies came from a place where you did a lot of what I will say potpourri. A mix up. You did a lot of mix up, and you even got into trouble with that. And I would like to really know if the education going to Alvin Ailey and all these various schools had any impact on your choreographic abilities.
Well, yeah, it did. As I said, you know, coming from a classical background, many even in the East Indian style, you were not really allowed to learn different styles, different genres of the East Indian classical Indian dance. Like if I was doing Kathak, it was very hard to. They don't really encourage you to learn like kuchipudi, because if you realize that the different styles have different techniques, you know, where Kathak is more of an upright and you do more spins and all this stuff, whereas in kuchipudi you do a lot of half sitting and all these different things. So they always used to give me, my teachers in particular used to give me a little trouble where that was concerned, because as I said, I always love dance. So when I see something and I automatically get drawn to it, and I'm like, oh God, I want to learn that, you know. And I never looked at the idea of, okay, you know, you can't mix the vocabulary, you can't mix the styles and all these different things. So when I got into it, you know, many of the teachers would tell me that, you know, I'm not allowing you to go learn that other particular style, you know. But obviously, I didn't really listen, you know. I did go, and then when I decided, look, you know, my dream really wasn't to go to India, where a lot of the Indian dancers will, you know, automatically be drawn to go to India to further their studies and their education in Indian dance. I was in the total opposite, you know. I wanted to learn modern. I wanted to learn tap. I wanted to learn, you know, ballet, you know, and jazz, because I used to love jazz as well. So when growing up, I used to see Alvin Ailey, and I was like, oh my God, I want to learn from that school, you know. And when I approached my teachers to give me a recommendation to go to Alvin Ailey, they were like, no, that this is weird. Why you want to go there? That is so out of your genre. And you know, I'm like, no, this is what I want to do, and I did, and that was a huge eye opener for me when I went to Alvin Ailey, and I was able to experience the different styles and to go more in depth with the technique. And that when I came back home, it took me to another level in terms of choreographing as well, because now I'm able to be a little more confident with my steps, you know, understanding the vocabulary of the movements and all these different things. So when I'm creating, even though I'm creating a story and a style, I still try to maintain my foundation where the classical Indian dance and the modern and the contemporary work could come in, you know. So for me, it did help. It didn't take me away from being creative, but it did help in a great deal in terms of, you know, putting it in a how should I say, you know, getting the movements looking as close as it could be to the traditional styles, you know. So it did help me up to a certain point, you know. But I still believe that you should try not to allow that aspect of you to eliminate the creative aspect of you. If you
Right.
understand what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Sometimes when you sometimes you get too technical and you lose the actual essence of what you were trying to
Yes.
portray, or trying to tell a story. So I try my very best to try to keep a balance of both
The best
in my
advice
choreography in particular.
I got from one of my choreography teachers. She said, just ask yourself this for any piece of choreography. It doesn't matter if it's from an academic point of view or from an academic this or just from a visceral, emotional point of view. Is it satisfying? Remember, you're choreographing for you have your collaborators who are the dancers, but you're doing it for a performance. So the people looking at it, is it satisfying? Meaning it doesn't have to have a clinical beginning, middle, and an end. But at the end of the piece, people have to feel something. Okay.
So Sonia, when you say that, are you suggesting that for a dance to be deemed, for choreography to be deemed successful, it has to be that the audience is the one who makes that decision, or is it supposed to be satisfying for you when you finish your choreography? You feel satisfied. Yes, this is what I want to portray, or is it that the audience are the ones to decide if it's successful or not?
I think the best thing is for both choreographer and audience to have some kind of feeling about it that is a satisfying one. And when I say that, I use the word very carefully because that's the word that was used to me. But I also say it because it doesn't mean to say that you have to like it. You could be disturbed by the piece of choreography.
Okay.
All right. But there has to be something that transforms you for at least a moment about that choreography. It doesn't have to be comfortable, but it has to be, you have to have told the story enough. Because if you're choreographing yourself, you don't have to worry about the audience. If you're choreographing for an audience, you have to worry about the audience. Okay, it's the same thing. You can be a painter and you can paint all sorts of wonderful things and they don't communicate to anybody else. But if you're not displaying it to anybody else, that's fine. If you are an artist and you want to communicate something, you have to consider your audience. Okay, so that once you consider your audience, consider if the work is satisfying, if they left there with something. My greatest fear is when somebody will say, "Oh, it was nice." What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Why do you say that? Yeah. No, Shema wanted to say something.
Right?
So
that's it.
To pull from what Sonia just said there in considering your audience. For me, the academic learning, it allowed me to see myself in a different way in terms of I would have done some of these things before, some of these techniques before, may not have known the style before academia, but I would have done it. So I became more aware of what I was doing. So my norm would have been teach the dancers because this is the end result that I want. So it doesn't matter if you can do this, you're going to get it at the end of the day, but you're going to have to do it. Forgetting that they too, their bodies may not be ready. They may not be that confident. So learning a lot of the techniques by the correct names, I started to incorporate it. So if I have a dancer and for school, this is what I do. If my students, a lot of our students come in and they're not technically trained, they have zero to very little dance experience. So within the school system, because some of them are shy, I don't pressure them, but I choose which technique I'm going to include them in terms of if I'm choreographing a dance, repetition might work for this bunch.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if I'm teaching the company where the dancers are supposed to be very knowledgeable and trained, I know I could come harder with them because if you're nurturing one set while teaching and the other set, you're creating a lot more. So you're making them do to perform, and others are just do to know your body. That's how the academia has really assisted me. I gain a lot more respect for knowing a lot of these dance theorists, a lot of the dance icons, and what they stood for and what they created and what they've done. And I use it gradually with some, and I choose who I'm going to give it to only because I don't want a dancer to feel inferior. I don't want to be male or female. I don't want them to feel bad. While challenging them is good, I probably try to challenge them in a different way. But sometimes having a broken dancer is the worst thing than having someone who feels, wow, I just got this one step right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I focus on building the confidence. I don't ever really try to take on too much in terms and expect too much with students in the education level, simply because sometimes they don't even know what their ability is. And they just want to feel like I did something, I'm a part of something. But when you're out there and you're performing in the commercial space, in the theater space, I treat it differently. That's
Okay.
it.
Well, Miss Scott.
Yeah, directly or indirectly, yes, academics through the dance education is being taught. In the various schools I go to, you teach your basic lines, what is cluster, what is separate, diagonal, horizontal, breathing in the sense of science, how to breathe properly, how the body is attached, the various limbs and organs, how it work, the physical health aspect of dance, warming up, doing the proper breathing technique, after session, cooling down and things like that, counts and beats and rhythm and timing. It's all part of numbers and vocabulary. Yes, so dance education it's important. Many of us may not emphasize that that's what we are teaching, but it is applied.
Yeah.
It is applied in the choreography and in the work and in the teaching.
I did say that the other way. Why I said it in a male choreographic thing, where I did say that I thought for me personally, I choreographed better before I took up academia. But when you look at the amount of my successes in choreography, I got more after I took up academia. So with academia, I felt like placed in a little box.
I agree.
And out of academia, I thought I was free like a bird, like Sonia wanted to be free. I was like that. But Sonia, I must say thank you for your teaching, because me and you was not at all. We're always on headstrong, but you always taught me, do the academia. Thank you. She always said that to me. She always you always said to me, do the academics. Go with it.
At your level, Gregor, I think there's a way in which that could definitely take you to just the next level and the next level, because a lot of the things, what's happening now in academia, in tertiary level academia of the dance, is that because more dance forms are being accepted and analyzed, not just the modern or the contemporary or the ballet or whatever it is, right? So you have a lot of African forms that are being studied, a lot of Indian forms, a lot of, different, forms around the world. What has happened is that a kind of trend has emerged where people mix the two, okay? But that's at a different level. That's at the tertiary level, and in terms of academics, who are now they're dance scholars who are also practitioners, kind of thing. There's a lot more of that happening now.
Yeah.
I think you were referring to before, Mindy, is that whole issue of how do you teach at the either primary or secondary school level, right? And I think Miriam is right. You have to teach them the basics, diagonals, this, that, the next, and the other. The very basic rudimentary things that are just true to form in any form. It doesn't matter what you're teaching. It's even true in acting. Even if they weren't dancing, the acting, the diagonal is the same, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that there's always a need for a combination of it. But at the end of the day, the choreography, the finished product, must be something that the audience can absorb something from meaningfully. You know,
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Guys, I see that we have lost Carol. I'm very sorry that we having some technical difficulties with her, and it is about that time to start wrapping up. So we want to ask you.
Yeah, all ready for the Gael Bacchanal time. You can you recall a favorite piece of yours? Quick, Sonia.
a favorite piece of my own or somebody else's.
Yours.
Right?
Yours.
I would like to remount a couple of pieces. One is very relevant now, The Strange Tale of an
Okay, Sonia, we'll do the academia. Just one.
Okay, well, one.
One.
That's it. And that's not academic,
but this time one.
So, I said it.
Which one?
The Strange Tale of an Island Shade.
Yes, beautiful.
Tale of an Island.
It's a thing with dealing with the Black Lives Matters.
It was choreographed in 2009. It was about colorism in
Colorism.
Okay, lovely.
It's very good for now too. So yeah,
Relevant.
it's very relevant. Miss Rachel.
Spiritual subconscious.
That was a piece from Scouting for Talent.
Piece that I did in Scouting for Talent.
Beautiful piece of work. I saw that, and I thought it was a painting. I really and truly thought it was a commercial. I came in late. I didn't hear them, and I thought it was a commercial. And when I looked, it was black and white, something like that. It was moving across. Excellent.
There was three statues
only
at the
one,
back. Yeah.
Only one, Shema. I know you did plenty.
Oh no,
And Mary. It's not Mary. Go ahead.
It's not Mary. Why you call me Mary? I did a piece called Cinema. The name of it wasn't Cinema. Listen, Ibis, before I even mentioned, Ibis have a way they'll name a dance before they call our name on stage. We do that a lot. I end up doing that a lot. But I loved Cinnamon.
That's the piece of the boy run.
Yes.
It was very, very nice. The cotton picking thing.
Yes.
The cotton picking dance. Well, I just name it for you, the cotton picking dance.
Thank you.
Miriam, and I know is my favorite piece of yours. I like to know if it was your favorite piece of yours.
What's that? Which is that?
I wouldn't tell you. I have to hear yours first.
I have many different pieces.
Miriam, academic one. Just one.
Oh my goodness. One would have been The Spirit of Harmony. That's a solo piece I did with my niece, Lisa McSween. She would have won the Tobago Heritage Festival that year with that piece, which was just confusion of rhythm and pulse not working and was disconnected. There was no harmony. And she was like this angel of harmony that came and pulled all the beats and rhythm together so that the harmony could flow and could be understood.
Lovely. I wanted to ask though, I know we asked about your favorite piece, something that you choreographed. Do any of you had a provocative piece? Something that when it went out there, it was debatable, it caused a confusion. Any of you had a piece like that?
One.
Yes, Rachel.
I had a piece called The Tribal Dance, which is the same. I use the same music that I did for Spiritual Subconscious. No, not Spiritual Subconscious. The one that I did for Talia, which is the Flight of the Ibis. I have different versions of that piece, right? But the very first time that I did that choreography, I did it in the Indian cultural pageant. And I had African, it was dealing with our heritage. I had African dancers, the East Indian dancers, and the Carib. And I used a piece of music. It was just instrumental, which was drumming. But the East Indian people from the Indian cultural pageant wanted to know what I doing with this African piece in their show. And it was very controversial. Not realizing that it was a piece of music from an Indian movie, a Bollywood movie. But I just added the music, the instrumental part of it, you know. And because I incorporate all these three elements, they were like, "What the hell is this girl doing in my show?"
Let
So it was very controversial.
That was one. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, that was one. I have many.
I know.
And we just want one, honey. Sonia, I can
The same one that I mentioned, The Strange Tale of an Island Shade. It was controversial because of its subject matter. Certain people slipped away from the performance because it was a dance drama performance, and the things that it dealt with, they weren't comfortable with. It's the same thing we're dealing with in this particular era, right?
Right.
And yeah, so that was it. I think a lot of it made, there was a certain level of discomfort that was caused in the audience. In fact, in two performances, two different places, two different times, you could see certain people just leaving the performance. And I remember other people saying, "Oh my God, Sonia, you went there? You went there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went there because we have to go there," you know. So that was my controversial piece.
Well, Shema, I don't know about your controversy, but let's hear you, Miss Burke.
I think the only thing nearest that for me would have been after this girl Fabiola had died. Carlos Durante wrote a song about it. And it was an era like just recent where you heard a lot of men or husbands or, you know, guys killing their significant others. And people were not willing to talk much about it. You know, it was emotional, but they weren't really going out there and really talking much. And there was a piece that Arthur Lewis wrote. The name of the song is, I think it's, the girl's name was Fabi. And I knew Fabi, so it was tough for me to try and choreograph this piece. And Arthur, being the type of director that he is, he said that I wanted it to be a reflection of what the dancer, which was the main dancer and actress in the production, I wanted this piece to resemble or let her see what her life could be like if she stays. Now, for those who have worked with Arthur, know that he never deals with mediocrity at any point. And the dancers that were part of it had to really go there. So Giselle, Pascal, and Alex, along with Afia at one point, and then became Carleen Braffett, they were viewing the abuse, which in the song was Fabi. And it was so real that a lot of people couldn't see it sometimes. And parents said, they were asking, is it that, you know, the pieces in the story would be very aggressive and violent? I said, well, it's real. I don't know if you want to shelter them from the reality, you know, because it touches a nerve in so many different ways. To see the guy strangle the woman to death, to see him beat her, to see them make back and look like they're in love. And it told a story about most women in this world today. So for me, that's the nearest I got to real controversy, because I was asked, where did I go to when I created this piece? What took me there? Why? All of these questions that kept coming. But it was very intense.
Nice.
I remember this piece that Lucette is mentioning here. Marie Street by Jalea Stroud Mitchell. I remember that piece, yes. That pole. Oh yes.
Well, Jalea
was a whole one.
Jalea was a student in my team. Jalea crazy.
Yeah.
Everything that tips.
Yes.
Jalea did everything controversial.
She's very brave.
But you know, she did some meaningful pieces. She did a piece where she didn't do the dances, it was ballet. Ballet and had a lovely ballet music, classical music, and she was pretending she going into the thing.
Right.
Like when you're going to set up for ballet,
yeah.
you're ready turn it.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, she does some lovely work.
Lovely work, I would agree.
Jalea does some beautiful work. Really original and fresh.
Unusual, yes.
I don't know about fresh, but original. Miss Miriam.
Any
For
provocative
me,
pieces? Yeah.
very young, I choreographed a piece to Marvin Gaye, which I performed myself, Sexual Healing.
Oh God.
And I could not hear the end of it after, even after I finished. Because, you know, it wasn't like my personality to bring all of that to the stage, my attire, and, you know, I mean, it was real sexy, nice body out there. And, you know, it was like coming through the audience, and the performance was at a club. And, you know, I mean, I got some real harassment from, you know, some men, and I felt, you know, really naked, you know.
But was
and violated after really enjoying my piece, Marvin Gaye piece, and you know, and after I really sat back and really thought about the lyrics, I said, no, girl, this was too heavy for you at that age. What do you know about that? You know? Yeah, so yeah, that was a provocative piece for me at that time.
But Miriam,
and then another, it wasn't really a dance piece, but it was a painting. Yes, so go ahead, Gregor.
For a painting for an evening gown. I was not going to tell you about that. Your best village evening gown. That was controversial.
Yes, I was just going to say that it was not dance. It was a piece.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't see it. I was just trying to depict the birth of where culture and all of that came from, and the birth. So, you know, the painting showed an African woman like giving birth. And I mean, it was really, and when it came on the stage, my God, I understood what it was, but, you know, people looking at it maybe looked at it another way.
No, well, actually, the lady was actually pretty.
Yes, Gregor.
Yes,
so that was an embarrassing.
I remember that. The whole thing came up so, and the lady was taking a baby. Oh my God, that was shocking.
You want to hear him too clearly.
Yes.
I don't think we want to see that's so real. Birth was always hidden in some hospital ward, but you bought it straight.
True. Now you know they have birth. Now you know they have birth on Facebook. Almost every woman now is showing giving birth on Facebook, the real thing. So you see what it came down to? That was just a painting.
That is what I love about all you young ladies here tonight, because the things they did in the past are now relevant today. Sonia's piece, your thing with the birth. If you bring that now, oh my God, everybody will clap for that gown. It was a beautiful, well-painted gown. You know, I'm not saying it was bad. Rachel, your Michael Jackson mixture with East India, oh my God, created a controversy with that. I don't know how he didn't talk about it. And Shirma, I have never seen a controversial piece. You're such a lady. Shirma Burke, you were such. I have never seen a controversial piece by you. Never.
Probably not controversial, but very provocative. It gets you thinking. Well, so I would put Shirma.
It's like time Shirma put on some fishnet stockings and some neighbor breakers, you know? Neighbor breakers and some boom short and do something. Shock the hell out of people.
I think I just did one piece, something like that. Sonia, you remember that? I think it was a showing in Coco, but it wasn't it was the beginning of Coco, and we did it at the Carib. But it was just I think yes, I did something.
All right, but we missed
it. You see that Coco show? That Coco show has been out all the provocative. If you want to do anything with controversy, put your dancing Coco, people. What you waiting on? If you know you're gonna create problems, put your dancing Coco. Do not go to Queen's Hall. Go to Coco. What about your choreography and payments? I know this is a tough deal, because what happened is that people have a way. Oh God, give me a little thing now.
Oh God.
Do a little thing for me now. I don't have much money. Do something for me. And I mean, I want to hear your take on what you feel, what you think a choreographer should be paid for about 5 minutes upwards. Just a little thing, because we are trying to assist the National Dance Association with ideas to it. So if you all give us a taste of what it is, things, so we gonna know where we lie in Trinidad and Tobago. Miriam.
Miriam, you're real thinking there, girl. You're trying to be very careful.
Well, I know Shuma has
I didn't
something.
clear choreography and a choreographer female.
Yes.
Yes.
No. I am only hearing. I'm hearing pieces of what he's saying. I caught choreographer and payment. How?
Yeah, that's right. Choreography. But this question was in response to choreographic works.
Oh yes, definitely. To be honest, I really never had a problem because I always set a standard from the very beginning because I had to pay my dancers and musician, my drummers. Yes, so I never really had a problem with that to date. What I do have a problem with sometimes is when you are contracted to do a performance, you don't get your payment on time. But when it comes to payment for my work, I don't play with that. You pay me what I ask for.
And what do you usually ask for 5 minutes of choreographic work from Miriam?
For 5 minutes?
Let's give us an idea.
For the choreography.
For 5 minutes piece, 2,005 and up. It all depends.
Nice.
Okay.
Miss Burke.
Pardon me? For 5. You heard? Okay.
Miss Burke?
I thought she wasn't finished with what she was saying.
She's getting a delay reaction from us from here. So she's answering. Okay?
Yeah.
For myself, honestly, guys, I have tried to gauge prices from other choreographers because it's something that we don't have a proper structure to as yet, at least as far as I know. So sometimes you lean on someone that you know, but then when you check out someone else's price, it is a huge difference. And then you try to figure out, okay, is my work good enough to charge this? Is the person I'm charging this able to pay this? Or it's just this type of show? Should I charge? Because the first thing you hear all the time that, well, for me, they love to come and say, is a charitable event. I hear that.
I think one of us heard that word before.
Listen, that's the opening line, you know. It's a charitable event. Good afternoon. So that's how they go.
Yes.
And then now you start to feel like, oh my God. And then once it involves a church, you feel worse. You feel like you're robbing Jesus. And then it continues. Yes. So I have no standard serious price. Now, what I ask people though who are hired me, what it is what is your budget? What do you budget for payment of the dancers that you're hiring and me? How long is the piece? If I find you're being ridiculous by saying, well, it's 5 pieces at once at $2,000, I say, oh my God, nah, because then you're not taking into consideration a lot of your time because it's 5 pieces, the length of time in which I have to complete these pieces and all of that. But sometimes I say, you know what, it's just for a little experience, a little exposure, but I think time has really passed for that. But to say that I have a standard fee, guys, I really don't. And that's why I always say, I'm glad when I heard NDA the other day talking about they want to work on stuff like that because it will help me as well. Because then sometimes you're going to hear, and it's, especially soca artists, they're different, you know, they are on the stage, they appear to have money. And I say this without feeling any way. And when it's time to get paid, they beat you down. They try to beat you down to nothing. You wonder if it's the same soca artist. So I remove myself from beating any soca artist other than the very few that I'm really, really good with, and they do try to dig out your eyes. But other than that particular event, I try not to kill somebody. A girl going up for a queen show, she said, I only have a little $600 and a little $600. It's really
$600.
Yeah, you know, I try to accommodate everyone. Those that I can't.
You mean $600 for talent?
Listen, Gregor, people still do that today.
No, well, if they come to me, I'll give them
No.
$1 and they are cool.
$600.
I'm serious. And let me tell you, one of the things I think is the issue with that is because they still view dance as a little something. Or you just, and they put the word just in front of your skill. It is just dance. So just brings down what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right.
love that. But she's just dance, or he's just sing, or he's just play guitar. You see the word just? Oh my God.
No, no,
I hate
no.
it in front of what I do, but that's how it is. Now, sometimes you don't have to tell, depending on who you're working with, you have to tell them what your price is. They value you, but
I
then
have broken the stigma of that a very, very long time ago. I have principles. Going out to perform, I'll tell my promoters I am not, my dancers, my troupe, we are not going to change in any restroom. We need
yes,
proper
correct.
dressing
No
rooms,
longer
things
do
like
that.
no, from very, very, even in the early years, performing with the company in the hotels. No, 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 that's a no-no. I am not taking my dancers to change in any restroom. I don't want any leftovers from any hotel or anything like that. You
Correct.
pay me for my works, and
That's right.
my artists need to be paid. And it's expensive. Fabric is expensive. Drum skin. Look, right now I have to repair a drum, and you're talking about $400 just for a skin, and that is just the skin. We haven't spoken about the labor just as yet.
And I think that's
No, no,
where
no. We gotta put word to our work. I did it here, and I lived in the States, and I did it there too.
Well,
Yeah, but that's why I think organizations really, really have to come together. I mean, from Best Village to private dance companies, and even NDA, which is supposed to be the umbrella that we're supposed to be governed by. We need to put that in place ASAP, otherwise this will continue. While you may say, Ms. Miriam, that that's not an issue with you, but what about, you have it in Trinidad where you have dancers that just want experience. I'm not one to say, don't go and do this, of course, but at the same time, because then now dancers think differently, eh? We would have danced for $20 a long time and be quite contented with that. Or just dance because the company called you and they said, we need this spiritual dance, we need this focus, and you're going because you love it. This is what most of us grew up doing. And then eventually you started to get paid because, you're putting...
I know, and you could give away, it all depends. You can't do a lot of charitable work for like churches.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I think for now, though, like in a lot of the commercial type of dances, again, I want to just go back to the hip hop dance and even the Afrobeats type of dances. These dancers, you're going to see them all over the place, pumping, doing dances like that. And they're not calling a big price, but it's popular. And when the folk dancers and the technically trained dancers and the academia type dancers call a price, we're the ones that they look at like, your dance are really not that popular. They're going to shut you down. So sometimes for your dancers to get out there, and I'm not saying out there as in to be seen, I'm saying to get that performing experience and exposure. Thanks, Gregor. You tend to say, okay, we'll take this. But you're not going to try to take it all the time.
Shima, basically what you're saying is that in order to raise the bar, we all have to raise it together. It can't be some doing it and some. We all have to raise it together. Risha, just give us a quick, I know we're wrapping up here, a quick idea of, your payments you're charging, whatever you do.
Well, for me, I always tell my husband, I think I the stupid one, because I really don't, just like Shoma, at the end of the day, when you don't have a standard price or standard to work with, it's very hard because a lot of people when they want to hire you, they will say, well, if you give them a price, they will tell you, well, I could get somebody else cheaper who doing your style,
Yep.
Right.
And obviously because I remember when I had my group, we had about 10 dancers, and certain shows want to pay me, they were paying me $150 for us to split within the 10 people.
What?
Yeah.
And mind you, I'm doing the choreography. I am making the costumes, right? And I have to pay for transport to get to the venue.
Yep.
And they don't see that. They just say, listen, at the end of the day, we're doing another something. We want all the groups to come and dance.
Gosh, no, we need to educate them. We
crazy.
need to educate them.
Yeah.
Exactly, because there's a lot of it does come down to a lot of education in terms of it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to prepare for, even for 5 minutes. For 5
Exactly.
minutes, there's a lot of work behind it.
But then you have the ones who you will say $5,000 for your team, and then they have the people who come behind and they say I'll do it for 1,000. I didn't know what it entails.
Yes.
So I
yes.
really feel that a body need to come together and address this situation.
Correct.
2020 is
The national awareness, yeah.
If 2020 could give us coronavirus, 2020 could give us these things.
Yes.
It's possible, yes.
You know what I mean? Right. So Vision 2020. So we'll come up to that. But Sonia, I know Sonia, you are, well, I know you. So you were taking that because you were a lady of business admin and you went Princeton University. So let me hear a little about
that doesn't matter when you're negotiating, you know. That doesn't matter that doesn't matter at all. What happens is that I'm in the same position as Sherma and Rachel because there's always this sort of vapsish way of people valuing your work.
Yeah.
Right? And and I found that, again, I hate to say it, but when we go on tour, we're much more considered, you know, a lot of the time. And what happens is that people say, well, okay, they actually apologize for giving me what is probably 10 times what I would get in Trinidad. They say, well, this is all we can manage. But they know that we know they treat us like professionals, even though it might be semi-professional. I define semi-professionals as like, you know, we don't do it for our 8 to 5 job or whatever it is, right? But the fact is we put in a lot of hours and they will seek a lot of the time to compensate us for that properly. But in Trinidad and Tobago, as Sherma says, you know, the little ones who just doing a little gig here and there will set the pace for those of us who are trying to have a proper structured fee structure, you know? And so it varies. And a lot of the time, again, same thing as Rachel said, they think it's not even, I don't even charge a lot of the time for my choreography. The reason why, the money is so small, I prefer to give that to the dancers.
Yeah.
Yes.
They brought my choreography live. I will try and compensate them in some way.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so I don't take anything.
Deloitte, is that true? Deloitte, is that true? You got paid from Continuum?
Right?
Yes.
So the fact is that that is always the issue. The issue is how do you pay the dancers, for the costumes, for the transportation, and how do you pay yourself after that?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, and then there has to be a kind of seniority. You're not going to pay a new person who's
Definitely.
the singing scene the same that you would pay Michael Jackson if he was still alive. Okay?
Right.
Of course
It's the
not.
same thing. There has to be a sliding scale of people who have some kind of experience as opposed to those who don't, who are not coming in. Okay? So that how do you deal with that sliding scale? And I mean, and do it mathematically. How many hours do you spend making 1 minute of choreography? Hours creating 1 minute of choreography. Okay? So how then you have to pay for the 3 hours because that's the labor time, huh?
Yeah.
Execution is by the dancers. You have to actually break it down systematically, like an accounting form, to say, well, okay, this is the item, this is the item, this is the item, this is the item, to come to 1 minute of choreography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see? And that is the types of things I'm hoping the NDA will look at and, you know, kind of flesh out.
Well, we have you on board now, and also when the NDA needs some help, we come into you too, because you are very versed in that area.
I can help. I can try and help. Sure.
I know you would, Sonia. You have been you always been a helpful person. You paid Deloitte. She just said you paid her. Deloitte said you paid her. You get away. So she's look at these fine young ladies all talking the truth. If Deloitte say you pay, you pay. So ladies, here's the biggest thing of the night. I've known you all. You all have been wonderful, fantastic choreographers in your own right, including Miss Dr. LaChapelle. Hi, if you've seen me at home, hi, Doctor. But I want to know really and truly, who is your favorite local choreographer?
They get to choose one.
Well, I said 3. You just wrote down one.
One.
Tell me one. One.
What? But the man got 3.
Okay, I want to give you all 3. 3. I said 3.
Okay, 3. Go with the 3.
I just thought my name when I called 4 times. So go ahead.
You know the emoji? You know the emoji like this?
Yeah.
So ladies, we're going with 3. When we say local, from Trinidad or Tobago, 3 choreographers. Could be male or female.
It could be male or female.
All right. So let's start off with Miss Miriam Scott.
My niece, of course, Lisa Maxwell.
All right.
Terry David, a very good friend of mine as well too, and young and upcoming Shaquille Jones.
All right.
Shaquille get in. He's watching Shaquille on
So he got called as a best dancer and now as a
best
choreographer.
choreographer.
All right.
Apparently, Mary, I haven't seen my work. That is all right.
But you know we go way back. You go way back. Let's bring it fresh. You already in
I am
here.
fresh, honey. I am fresh. No,
Way back.
I stopped counting my age at 16.
All right. Shoma, let's hear you. Your 3 best choreographers.
You know, all you're unfair doing it like the men.
What
Because
is
I
men?
well paid attention to that the other night. The men had honorable mentions and they had the choreographers. Anyway.
Okay, that's a 3 and
3.
yeah.
And the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So honorable mentions would be Jolene Ford and Aviance Bean. I think they're amazing choreographers. And in my 3, I'd have Gregor Brady, Sonia Dumas, and Terry David. Yeah, I love. And Terry David.
Thank you, Sonia. Sorry. Thank you, Shoma.
Rachel, follow me. They have honorables in there. Put it in.
Well, definitely Gregor Brady.
Yeah.
I'm going home. I'm done. Bye, somebody. Bye.
Drop the pencil.
I always tell him that I'm the female version of him.
All right.
So,
Yes, you are.
yes, Gregor Brady. I also like Terry David,
Okay.
and I love Shoma's work.
Shoma. So Shoma, you can call it a best dancer and a best choreographer. That means you're right about that too.
Look at your name and call. Sorry.
Sonia, can we hear your 3 before we wrap up tonight? Thank you.
Oh Lord have mercy. Gregor boy. I better just say Gregor, and Gregor.
I love Gregor.
All 3 Gregor.
So Gregor, you got called plenty times.
They
More
get
than
the
4.
Academy Award.
Yes. More than 4 times. So ladies,
We have some honorable mention here. So listen well, and if you have anything, if any of the panel, not the panel, the panel and the audience, the viewing audience, if you have to put in anything, you can say, but we go in.
so listen out carefully and listen out for this one.
Honorable mention for choreography and female choreography, that is Abio Jackson, Lucy Ray Jeans, Imelda Lynch Griffith, Jean Coggins Simmons, Noble Douglas, Nancy Herrera, Michelle Pilgrim, Judy Boatswain, Leanna Boyce, Avril Taylor, Arlene Taylor, Louise McClatchy, Lucette Regis, Erica Rollins, Sasha George, Beverly Hines, Joyce Curtin, Jessica Joseph, Indira Mahathu, Suzanne Mohip, LaShawn Prescott, Natalie Rogers, Jackie Celestin, Patricia Rowe, Rhonda Lou Samuel, I love her. Erlene Crooks Ned, she was nice. Noble Douglas, Tora Dumbbell, Marcia Charles, Jelaine Stroud Mitchell, your name get called, girl. Candice Ann Harry, Candice Clark, she's a famous Creola the person who created the Crayola technique. Natalie Seattle, Avril Jerry, Karen Sims, Deborah Bernard, Ursulyn Williams, Avni Joy Duki, Avril Potter, Karen Dutton, Elsa Francis, Bridget Wilson, Arlene Frank, Viola Parsons, Julia Edwards, Akesia Fredericks, Karen Berkeley Allen, Linda Pollen Lake, Heather Henderson Gordon, and of course, the dam of them all, Dr. Beryl McBurney. Those are your honorable mentions, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you again tonight. Our panel, we thank you so much. Please continue to spread the work of Soca TV. And we want to thank also Miss Carol LaChapelle, who got cut off, and we are sorry about that. We will try our endeavor in the future to try and make sure that these technical difficulties don't occur.
And ladies, I'll leave you with some final words here, some food for thought. These are the words of North American choreographer Miss Twyla Thorpe. Oh, Sonia is on your house. Thorpe. In the end, there is no ideal. In the end, there is no ideal condition for creativity. What works for one person is useless for another. The only criterion is make it easy on yourself. Find a working environment where the prospect of wrestling with your muse doesn't scare you, doesn't shut you down. It should make you want to be there. And once you find it, stick with it. Have a pleasant good night. Thank you to the panelists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Our viewing audience, please follow, like, and share. Please support Soca TV, and of course, look out for our upcoming episodes. They'll be just as exciting and interesting.
And do not take no more jobs. That is just a thing. Bye.
Bye.